Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
We made this.
Hello and welcome back to We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek podcast where we are talking the latest and greatest from Strange New Worlds. We're a part of the We Made This podcast network, not only covering everything Star Trek and Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Strange New Worlds, but also all things TV, film, music, and pop culture. My name is Mike Slamer. I am the regular host here on the show along with Ian Buckley. Ian, we've been away from the bridge for a bit, but it feels good to be back. How are you doing?
It does. It is good to be back. Thanks for doing this with me. This is a little strange not talking about Discovery with you, but it's delightful to have an entirely new Star Trek series to discuss with you.
Yeah, entirely new. We're only 5 episodes into this new Trek franchise, helmed by Anson Mount's Captain Pike and his hair. How are you digging it so far?
Really enjoying it so far. It's we're now at the halfway point in the season, and I don't know about you, I'm not really missing a season-long existential threat or cataclysm or some big intricate plot. Not that there is necessarily anything wrong with doing those things, but it's nice to just have a show you can put on and not have to worry about everything and everyone in the show you're watching potentially being wiped off the face of the universe.
Yeah. There's something. I've been watching it with my partner, my wife, and she made a great point. Like, this is kind of a palate cleanser. Like it's a little easier to take because
it goes down smooth.
Those high stakes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it feels good. It's been great fun. Listen, Strange New Worlds is great fun. I can't help but feel as though the original series is getting a little bit left in the dust, like those characters, but this is exactly what I was kind of hesitant about with the show being greenlit in the first place. Just that Strange New Worlds is essentially the original series, just rebranded a little bit, like rebooted a little bit. But I gotta say, every single detail has really come together. Everything's been really well done. From the costumes to the set design to the VFX, everything is just really respectful, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think the opposite. In terms of how it's making me feel about or TOS, like for me, I think it's really cool to have all of these callbacks to that era that I first fell in love with Trek during, and for me, it's making me want to go back and revisit that series and refamiliarize myself with those adventures and those characters again. I don't feel like it's supplanting those. I feel like it's just continuing on the tradition. I mean, look, I don't think prior to the introduction of Pike on Discovery, anyone was really clamoring for yet another prequel series, especially one now set really right before TOS, and even involving some of the same characters. But I think when the Pike and Spock appearances on Disco went over so well as a sort of proof of concept, right? Look, we can't clamor for more Pike and Spock and then complain about this particular show existing. This is, I think, one of the best possible iterations of this kind of show. Wow. I think I think it is a very strong first season to a new Star Trek show. And yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far. It's not, maybe it's not breaking any new ground thematically. It doesn't have any, I don't think I've been wowed in terms of, a mind-blowing concept being introduced to me yet, or having some like really deep ethical quandary going on. But I think all the themes are very much in keeping with the best of Trek. And even when they're not especially subtle, that's fine. Star Trek is frequently unsubtle in its messaging, especially in the sort of TOS era that we're set now.
Yes, definitely. What I do love about it is you have characters taking agency over themselves in ways that the TOS characters did not. I mean, look at Nurse Chapel, especially in this episode. We're going to talk about it. Yeah, and Uhura. We are getting more characterization, more dialogue, more time with these characters than the entire run of the original series had ever given us. And we're only 5 episodes in.
Absolutely. It's a more modern, sophisticated way of storytelling, which makes sense. Television storytelling has progressed in the last 60 years. It would be weird if it didn't feel different.
Exactly. But at the same time, it doesn't feel so different. It feels like coming home.
Yeah, a lot of this feels familiar in the best possible way, for me at least. And I'm saying that as someone who, like I've said many times on this show, TOS was my first Star Trek love. I grew up on that show, its reruns. I grew up with those movies, and it wasn't until later that I sort of found Next Gen on my own. It was sort of like my dad introduced me to TOS, and then I discovered Next Gen on my own and kind of introduced him to that. And then everything else after that I was sort of on my own. But it was TOS first. And so a lot of the iconography of that show, a lot of the vibe of that show is so tied into what it's just pressing this happy button in the little back of my brain. This little boy button in the back of my brain is just getting pressed over and over again by this show. So yeah, I'm going to be a little bit biased in my assessment of the series to some extent. But I certainly, at least based on the online conversation around this series, it doesn't seem like I'm in the minority here when I say that I'm really enjoying it so far.
No, absolutely. And I want to be clear, I was hesitant coming into this because, I didn't want to have a rebranded, rebooted TOS series, and it's not that at all. And they're killing it. I'm loving this show. So we were lucky enough to get advanced screening of Spock Amok because we are a part of the We Made This podcast network, and I guess who would have thought we have a presence? And CBS said, yes, you guys can watch it. So Spock Amok, the 5th episode, I feel like it could have been called Freaky Stardate Friday.
Yeah, we got a bit of a body swap comedy in the middle of Star Trek. Actually, we got a lot of hijinks.
Hijinks.
A lot of hijinks. It was a hijinks heavy week, and I think, everything about the themes of this week's episode, we'll get into that. Very classic Star Trek themes. We talked about it not being especially subtle, but it's still a good theme about radical empathy and seeing the world from the perspective of other people. It's an evergreen topic, and one that, we got to see explored through the lens of both diplomatic and interpersonal relations. All of that, great. I think the rating for this week for me, in terms of like how much I enjoyed this episode, is ultimately going to come down to like how well the humor of this episode lands.
Sure.
And for me, a lot of it worked. Not everything worked. If you want to get into specifics now, we can. But I think how much people enjoy this week's episode is going to come down to how much you are a fan of the TOS era and the vibe and those characters, and how well the comedy lands. And, Star Trek has a bit of a mixed record when it comes to comedy outside of like Lower Decks. For me, I'd say about 3/4 of it worked, which isn't bad. So,
okay.
I enjoyed this week's episode. It probably wasn't my favorite of the season so far, but I've enjoyed all of them so far.
Fair enough. I mean, for me, coming off of a very serious situation with the Gorn last week and, going through all that heavy, PTSD trauma type situation with La'an. And of course, going through the battlefield and losing Enterprise crew members, all that seriousness. So to come away with something a little bit more lighthearted, but still following in the footsteps of serialized TV. Like this happened last week. We addressed it. Now we're back at Starbase 1, also keyed in, it was rebuilt following the Klingon War, another callback to season 1, Star Trek Discovery. They keep sprinkling in those Discovery elements, and I really appreciate that. They're not just kicking everything out the door. They keep going back, and that's something that's kind of important to me as someone who enjoys watching not just Star Trek, but also Marvel does the same thing. They have this whole universe. They have this whole franchise. And when you ignore events that happen in another show or an episode prior, it kind of loses its weight. So the fact that they keep addressing it and keep bringing it up is good stuff for me. And also, this episode, I think, was a great dive into our characters. So I think for me, this was a strong 8.5, 9 episode.
Wow. All right. Yeah. I probably wouldn't rate it quite so high. I'd give it, well, like I said, about 3/4 of the humor worked. So I'd probably get it around a 7.5, maybe an 8 on a rewatch.
Fair.
You're bringing up this serialized, this sort of low key serialized nature of it where, hey, the ship got broke last week. So this week we're fixing it. Like, I think everyone appreciates that. I know that in Next Gen, it was cool when at the end of Best of Both Worlds, you had the next episode that the Enterprise needs to get repaired because of the battle. And so we have this episode Family where we get to follow Picard on his adventure. Well, not adventure, but on his story. And you get, Worf being embarrassed by his parents on the Enterprise. You get a decidedly lighter tone. The Picard story gets a little heavy in that episode, but you just have this big epic battle episode followed by a decidedly lower key. Everyone gets a chance to breathe. The ship is getting fixed. We're learning more about our characters this week. I think fans appreciated that when Next Gen did that, and I think it's nice to see that Strange New Worlds is going to make that sort of standard procedure. I think fans have wanted that to be the case.
Yeah, definitely. Ian, let's dive right in because I want to talk about the dream sequence that opens the episode, which I love it when TV shows do that, when their character is dreaming and that's how they open it. It's such a fake out. And it's the same set, Ian, as Amok Time. It's the same set.
Yeah, you get the set. You get the I wrote it down in my notes that I lost.
the Lyra weapons.
Thank you. Yeah, the weapons.
Yeah.
And the battle music. You get the battle music reorchestrated. It's reorchestrated a little bit, but it's the same battle music that I love, and it used to have that as my ringtone for a while, and nice. Pretty obvious that it's a dream right away, but it still was for me an effective callback to one of those all-time classic episodes. I mean, I remember watching that episode as a little kid for the first time. I enjoyed that dream sequence opening quite a bit.
Oh, it's so iconic. It really is. I also think it's a really clever way to bridge people to the original series episode of Amok Time. Yeah. Which, interestingly enough, as soon as we finished watching this, I put on Amok Time for her to watch.
That was a good idea. I should have done that.
And it so she said to me, and I'm quoting her here, that having the context of the episode and everything that happens, it makes this episode of Strange New Worlds that much better for it. Because now you can kind of see the mirroring effects of Spock and Nurse Chapel. And then T'Pring is kind of a cold ass bitch in Amok Time. She's not she's not at all the way she is here, where they have this whole body swap and they have this empathy. They get to know each other a little bit. Clearly, this story is not over between now and Amok Time.
It's also clearly a reinterpretation of those characters. I mean, Ethan Peck's
100%.
Ethan Peck's Spock is and this is not a criticism, obviously, of Leonard Nimoy's interpretation of Spock. It's just that this is a different one. It is a much warmer, more human, for lack of a better word, kind of performance. Maybe he's in a little bit of a different place in his logic journey. You know, that is one of the sort of through lines of Spock through the show and the movies, is it kind of goes back and forth, up and down, how much he's leaning into the stoic, logical, cold Vulcan side of himself and how much he's allowing his human side to come out. So maybe in the TOS era, he's a little colder, a little more rigid, a little more shut down. Maybe because of things that happen in the course of this series. I guess we'll learn. But it is a different interpretation. So I liked that T'Pring too was interpreted differently in a much more, it gives the audience the perspective that the characters didn't have too. So we learn a little bit more about T'Pring, and it establishes this relationship, which has such a, it plays such a crucial role in that episode and in Spock's history. And now we're getting it filled in with a lot more detail.
Yeah, and it's really well done in terms of the modernization. In Amok Time, T'Pring is basically relegated to being property of Spock or property of the other guy, right? And here,
it is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
She's a modern, working, professional career woman. She's got her own job that she's doing. She's also important. She's also taking time out of her life to make this meet with Spock at Starbase One work, to make it so that they have this time together. And this is part of the tension that gets set up where Spock has a job. He's science officer on the USS Enterprise. He has this mission where they are sitting down for negotiations and he can't make dinner.
Right.
I think it's a good setup. Like that whole, plot through line, like it plays out smartly. It's a classic. We all have shit to do. We're all important. We all have work to do. We're supposed to have this date. We're supposed to be here. Why couldn't you make time for me?
Right. Everyone can relate to struggling with the work-life balance.
Yes, 100%. And these two characters are in literally different places in the universe. So to get together in one spot in the universe is a rare thing.
Yeah, and I really liked the effort that T'Pring was clearly making to meet Spock, like as challenging as her attitude could be at times, and her demeanor could be at times. Especially when I think as the audience, we're predisposed to be on Spock's side in a lot of this stuff. We're also all Starfleet fans. Like, we're of course all like, well, how can you not understand that his career in Starfleet is the most important thing in the world? How can you not get that? So I really do commend the show, and the performer and the writers in giving us a more three-dimensional character. I was worried after episode 1 that we might just kind of be giving this character the sort of one episode in a blue moon kind of treatment, and we don't really have to worry about or think about her. And it's clear that they're gonna take this relationship at least somewhat seriously in this series, and not just have her be like this fun reference that they made in the first episode. I didn't really expect that, I'll be honest, after the first episode. So I was glad to see that I got more context from this character. It does sort of in retrospect make the T'Pring that appears in Amok Time make a little less sense to me. But it's 60 years. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you can't care about that shit. You just
Correct.
can't. You'll drive yourself
let it
nuts.
Go. Let it go. Yeah.
We're not going to be those kinds of fans.
What do you think about the whole so Nurse Chapel, gives Spock some advice, right? Some dating advice, which I thought was interesting. And by the way, we're going to be talking Spock and T'Pring for a little while here. So, folks, if you're at home listening and you want like a play-by-play, we are talking Spock and T'Pring for a little while at least. What do you think about this Katra swapping ritual that they go into?
I mean, it felt very 60s TV, and I really appreciated that. Like, it felt very. I mean, obviously, the Freaky Friday is the sort of reference that comes up, and I know that's a movie, but it's it just felt like a very kind of. Cheesy has a negative connotation, but it was just kind of a little silly. Yeah, just a little light, silly, fun, but in a good way. Like I liked it. I like hijinks. So,
T'Pring does not like
hijinks, but when Chapel said who doesn't like hijinks, I was like, hell yeah. Like who the hell doesn't like hijinks?
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, I was a big fan of it. I thought it was just the right amount of sort of silliness for this, sort of era of Star Trek that they're playing around in. Like this sort of thing would have felt not as in place in like Star Trek Picard.
I think that this particular Vulcan ritual, the way that it's set up is to encourage two people to see through the other's eyes, examine, you'll know my innermost thoughts. I will know your innermost thoughts. So we will have a better understanding of what we prioritize and what we find most important in our lives, so we can better understand how we can communicate. So the body swap thing was a total mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen. They were just supposed to be like a light mind meld type situation.
Oh, I'm not as clear on that. I think they were supposed to. I thought the idea was that they were supposed to occupy each other's body, just only within the confines of the ritual. And what went wrong was that once the ritual ended, instead of switching back, they stayed.
Oh, I may have misinterpreted that then. Yes, no, you're right. Because I do recall one of them saying, like, we are not back in our bodies. Yeah.
I think that was the intention of the ritual, was for them to swap. It was just supposed to go back when it was over.
Yeah, but
which is a cool concept. Like it to me, it doesn't make any less sense than any of the sort of other Vulcan weird magic stuff. And they kind of call that out in this episode. They say, like, look, the stuff that goes on with like Vulcans and Katras, it's like kind of not strictly science. It's kind of like this other amorphous thing that we've just sort of learned to accept in the Star Trek universe, or not. Whatever. I'm sure there are probably fans who hate all the Vulcan mysticism and the Katra stuff, but there's no getting away from it. It's baked into the DNA of Star Trek so thoroughly at this point. You just have to tackle it head on, and they did. They, expanded Vulcan lore, I think, in a fun, interesting way, and it sort of tracks with what we've learned previously as the sort of lore of what Vulcans can do with their mental powers has expanded. So sure, why not? Why not this too?
Exactly. And I do like how, towards the end of the situation, you've got Dr. Mbenga basically saying like, yeah, you know, this is basically magic. It's all basically magic. He kind of gives up trying to find an
paste
explanation.
on their heads, stick a bunch of crystals on them, and then zap them. It's so funny. Like
it's totally goofy.
That solution looked like something that was modernized out of something you would have seen on the 60s show.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could easily imagine like, you know, them sticking some silly looking crystals on the head of a patient and like waving some medical instrument over it and being like, yep,
right.
We
it
did
lights
it.
up randomly.
That did it. Their brains are back where they should be. Like, of course you can imagine that in TOS.
Of course, it tracks perfectly with everything we've seen. Yeah, it's really good. So let's talk about a little bit about Nurse Chapel, because Nurse Chapel has a lot in this episode, and in Amok Time, Nurse Chapel has a lot in Amok Time as well.
I loved the Spock Chapel dynamic. I mean, I was completely not expecting, you know, if I had watched that Amok Time and TOS in general more recently, I probably would have remembered that, like, oh yeah, Chapel always did kind of have a thing for Spock.
Mm-hmm.
But I had forgotten that until this, and I was delighted by it. It was so cool, I thought, to see this side of Spock that we get to see with Chapel, what it's like being his friend.
Yeah.
You know, from the perspective of someone who isn't named Kirk or McCoy. Mm-hmm. And I really got the sense of Chapel and Spock have their own thing going on. I didn't quite realize that they were already friends, but you know, they've been serving together on the ship. Sure, they've got a relationship, and yeah, I love the openness that they have with each other, and it is funny because, you know, by the end of the episode, it's not an accident. It was obviously the intent of the episode, but man, like, at least for me, I was really hoping that they would get to, like, obviously in my brain, I'm like, yeah, no, of course they're not going to get together. This is literally like, this is T'Pring. We know she's going to come back. Like, there is no world in which, you know, Spock and Chapel end up smooching in this episode, but I wanted them to smooch. You know,
yeah,
I was feeling it for them, man.
They were giving each other a lot of eyes in sickbay, and man, I got to tell you, it was coming off hot. If Chapel didn't walk away, that I would have been like, oh, just do it, just fucking kiss her, man. Like, do it.
Yeah, who knows? You know, we don't get a lot of, you know, explicit exploration, and how could we in the 60s series of how open and flexible Vulcan relationships and engagements could be. I don't know if there is a future Strange New Worlds arc that could explore the tension of a love triangle with the three of them, but it could be interesting. Like, could be interesting. I can imagine there are fans out there listening to me say that and screaming at me. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but
they're on Twitter now.
I'm a softie. I like the two of them. I think they've got good chemistry in this series, and I'm not super, super, super precious about. And again, it's not even like it would violate canon because they never said anything one way or the other in that series.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I mean, in Amok Time, you know, the closest we get is that Nurse Chapel clearly cares about Spock, brings him plomeek soup, which, you know, in the opening of the episode, Spock very violently rejects, but then specifically requests it when she comes to see him later. So it's and there's always been that little like flirty kind of a thing, like Nurse Chapel to shoot some eyes over. But that was the 60s, and it was a different time. The filming was different, blah, blah, blah. But now here in our modern era, you know, we have Nurse Chapel who, I don't know, like she's a little bit of a playgirl, you know. She's got a date, Lieutenant Danny or Danvers or something.
Poor Danvers, or whatever his name is. God.
Poor guy sitting at the bar. He's like, yeah, you know, like, I'm hungry. She's like, yeah, let's get out of here. Come on.
Yeah, I'm hungry too, man. Like, get that, like, I'll give you something to eat. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. And he's like, no, let's talk about us. And there, she immediately fades out.
Hard pass. Hey, look, there's Spock over there. I'll see you later.
And like, not even hiding it. Just like, okay, I'm going to go help out my friend
I gotta help a friend.
Yo, I feel for that guy so hard. I'm just like, man, let me, you know, like, where's your wing, bro? Come on. We gotta get you out of here.
I don't know.
You out of here. Get you to the Cabo table.
I think she's better off. He seems like a bit of a drip. I think she's. I feel for her. She's not missing out on anything.
I mean, listen, he's not serving on the Enterprise, so come on. Is he really? Come on, like is he up to the task? I doubt it. I doubt it.
No.
But I like that. Or Lieutenant Ortegas calls her out on it. Yeah. Like, hey, like be honest in your relationships. And Chapel's like, oh, I don't know about that. And she's like, well, maybe you'll find something real. And Chapel very pointedly says it's got to be for the right guy. And then it just kind of fades right there, and she's talking about Spock.
Of course.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. I love that we're gossiping. It feels like we're gossiping about our characters.
It is. It's nice. I like that we have already only 5 episodes into this new show with, admittedly, we're very familiar with Spock in general as a character, but this iteration we're still really getting to know. And already we are, I think you can tell from talking to me, like, pretty fully invested in these characters, their relationships to one another, as we learn more about their relationships. Like I'm enjoying the new things that I'm learning about their relationships. Like none of the revelations about the interpersonal character dynamics and nothing about anyone's, chemistry with one another has fallen flat for me so far. There were a couple of, maybe specific scenes in this episode or in any given episode in any given week that might fall a little bit flatter than some others. Right. But really, by and large, like I'm buying into the character chemistry. The interpersonal dynamics are interesting to me. I find a lot of these characters charming. I find Chapel extremely charming, especially in this episode. Oh, yeah. I'm more than ever convinced that this show is off to a really solid foundation.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Yeah, you really said it. Let's talk about some other characters. We have La'an and Una, who get a little bit of a pairing up in this episode. What's your take on this? They are already friends.
So this was fine. This was my the least successful sort of pairing for hijinks. I think this one had the sort of lowest batting average for me. In terms of the success of the humor, the specific comedy beats in the scene, just felt like things could have been tightened up a little bit more. It was fine. Some scenes worked really well. I like their dynamic in general over the course of the season. Last week I thought had some good moments, but I feel like they've found opportunities in each episode so far to give them moments, and I like their dynamic. I think that their friendship works. I don't know if maybe this was an instance of getting a little bit too much of it, or it just I don't know. It didn't feel like the writers necessarily knew what the best thing to do with them in each specific scene was. Some of the humor just fell a little bit flat. But other scenes worked. So mixed on La'an and Una in this episode, I think, is what I would say.
I think I understand what it is you're getting at. The way I viewed it with the two of them going about the Enterprise, playing Enterprise bingo with each other, which is a really fun concept. And
once they started doing that, their scenes started working for me. better.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes for me. It kind of felt like La'an was maybe trying a little too hard, and Una didn't really know like how to go about engaging in this, because the whole thing is that Una, being the first officer, she never leaves the ship. She she is where the first officer position is where fun goes to die, apparently, right? And she can't have any fun. She doesn't know how to let loose. And so La'an is trying to get her let loose. Like, you don't have to have this nickname of being where fun goes to die. But it just kind of, it all felt a little pushy.
Well, the transporter scene where that nickname gets introduced, like that scene, again, to me, felt like it needed another pass from the writers. The delivery, the reveal of the nickname.
Yes.
Bless Mbenga's heart. Just that, I didn't find that scene, the comedy of that scene that they were trying to get out of that scene. It just didn't. It just all fell flat to me, and I was just. I'm sorry, but there are few things less pleasant to watch than a comedy scene that isn't working. And so I couldn't really wait for that scene to be over. It wasn't that bad. I'm overselling it. But, I think to me that was sort of the La'an and Una side of things got off to a little bit of a shaky start. But then, probably improved with each subsequent scene. I really liked their interactions with the cadets, for example.
Yes.
I thought that stuff was all handled really well by them. That all worked. I thought most of the bingo stuff worked. I liked the core idea of Una and La'an, these two characters who are very dedicated to their work, who genuinely love their work, struggling to let loose a little bit and engage in some of the sort of lower decky stuff going on. I like the idea of senior staff getting up to lower decks type hijinks. It just not every scene with the two of them worked for me.
Fair enough. I really did like in the line of dialogue that Enterprise bingo is played by ensigns and below, so that it makes sense that it's like a lower decks type tradition.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a cool thing to bring in from another show. They didn't reference it. They didn't name drop the show. They didn't talk about it in any kind of a way. It was just, a subtle catch, I think, for, whether it was intentional or not, for folks like us who like to review and analyze and pick things apart. But I really liked it. And by the end of it, man, when they're walking out on the hull of the Enterprise and they scratch their names into the oldest hull plating on the ship, I thought that was a really nice. I really liked it. I was smiling through the whole scene. I was like, they got to the end of their Enterprise bingo game. They got to put their mark on it. So now when any other ensign comes out here and plays it, they're going to see that and they're going to be like, oh, okay. Our officers know what's up,
Yeah. Liked the moment with the two of them on the hull. That was pretty cool. And one of those images that felt pretty awe-inspiring. It was one of those moments where you're like, oh, that's cool. Like I didn't think Star Trek was going to show me this. It was a nice moment for the two of them.
Definitely. Other nice moments, I got to say, everything with Chris Pike in his green tunic.
Yes, I specifically wrote down the green tunic. I know how much you love that green tunic, and I really loved this updated green command tunic as well. Nice costuming callback.
The more I saw it, the more I liked it. But my initial impression was that I did not like the leather as a material to use in the variant.
I agree. That was my least favorite part of it.
Yeah, it looked a little too shiny. Under all the lighting. Yeah. I think if they muted it a little bit, it'd be really nice. But I'm just being nitpicky. It's my favorite uniform variant. It looked amazing. I can't wait to see all the cosplayers with the new material coming out here. I myself have an original series season 2 green tunic, not the one with the braids on the collar, but the one with the little, basically exactly
it's
what
the
Pike
wrap, right?
It's the wrap, yeah. So really appreciate it. I love seeing it. I really loved also that we have Admiral Robert April come back in a meaningful kind of a way.
Yeah, I think it's cool how they're continuing to include Robert April as a good moral presence
yes.
in this show. It's nice that Pike has someone who's got his back, kind of at Starfleet, and a really nice way to handle that kind of formerly obscure legacy character.
Yeah, I mean, Robert April was initially, man, I don't even know where he started from, whether it was the animated series or a novel.
First appearance was definitely animated. He may have been mentioned in TOS, like in one of the, I don't know, like a courtroom,
it would have to be
courtroom scene
deep
where they're listing the commanders of the Enterprise, something like that. You know, it would be something. It would be an offhanded thing because I'm pretty sure the animated series was referent. You know, his appearance was a fulfillment of an original series reference that was only in text. But I could be mistaken.
Exactly. So it just it goes to show that the writers and showrunners of Strange New Worlds, you know, that not only are they nailing the actual formula of the original series, but they're nailing the legacy. They're nailing the canon in ways that, you know, listen, I love the character of Picard. You know, I love TNG, but what they're doing on Strange New Worlds is not what they're doing on Star Trek Picard.
Right. No, it's quite
about that.
It's quite different in terms of tone and this type of storytelling that they're doing. It's a very different show with different goals in mind.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. I really like the whole briefing room aspect. You have Cadet Uhura there as the communications officer, the linguistics expert in the room. So it makes sense that Uhura is on that team to manage the negotiations. Are the Rangovians? Is it Rangovian? Ragovian? I don't know if I heard it properly.
That's a great question for someone who remembers.
Fair enough. So I love this new species. It's a fun dynamic. They're antagonistic, but then they're kind of reasonable, but then they're very logical. They mirror the personality of whoever it is that they're talking to.
Yeah, it was pretty clear during the sit down with Spock. Who they thought was Spock.
Spock.
What was going on. You can kind of see Pike catching on to what was going on. You know, it was fun in rewatching it. You know, you sort of, at least myself, I was reminded of the response to the Tellarite ambassador and how aggressive and rude he is. Like Tellarites are rude and aggressive, so he's just mirroring. Pike is like Mr. Friendly Guy, and so that was immediately what he responded to Pike with after he took a couple of minutes to adjust. He responded, if you rewatch the scene, he doesn't really respond to Pike at first, and then he makes the adjustment to mirror what Pike is doing. And it is an extreme example of what a lot of people do when they go into different social settings. We project different sides of ourselves, we highlight different aspects of our personality a little bit more in certain company and other aspects of our personality a little bit more in other company. It's not that we're lying to people, but you just put on a little bit of, everyone probably doesn't do this, but many people will adjust how they interact with others depending on the situation they find themselves in.
Code switching.
Yeah.
They're code switching. Yeah. It's definitely a communication technique. It's a personality technique. People do it in business all the time. They do it in offices. They do it in their personal lives all the time, just as you said. It's just a part of life. And I think it's really cool that it's amplified in this new alien species that we have. And it's really cool how Captain Pike really picks up on it. And at the end, you know, in the final negotiation, you know, the Rogovian captain says, you know, please summarize. Why should we join the Federation? And Pike out of hand dismisses them and says, I actually don't think you should, because here's why, X, Y, Z. And he just says, okay, thank you, and gets up and leaves. And as the ship is leaving, they fly the United Federation of Planets flag, signaling that they have decided to join the Federation. And Pike, you know, Ian, he comes back and he drops that line, radical empathy. They just wanted someone to hear them from their point of view.
Yeah, it's a good Star Trek theme. I thought the moment at the very end when the Rogovians head off, I thought it was a little, I don't know, it was a little too neat for me. that it was like they walked out of the room and within a couple of minutes they're departing.
They
and
already had the flag
is flying. I thought it might have been. It might have been a little nicer if, especially since we kind of got the closer shot of the Rogovian ship departing from Una on the on the deck of on the hull of the Enterprise.
Right.
They're watching it, like maybe just have the flag visible as it's flying by and just don't necessarily comment out loud, bonk bonk on the head. You know, this was the message. This is, you know, we did it, guys. You know, I thought the moment fell, again, it was just one of those, I'm nitpicking a little bit here. It was just a moment that fell a little flat for me. Could have had more of an impact personally, that as a button to the episode.
I hear you. I personally like it. I think it had that TOS vibe where, okay, guys, this is the end of the episode. We have about 5 minutes left. So let's make sure everybody really understands that we accomplished what we set out to do. And let's make sure we have a nice moment.
To be very clear, I'm only
characters.
specifically talking about the flag reveal. I'm not talking about Pike saying the words that he said. That all should stay. And specifically just like the flag reveal, I thought was a little ham-handed.
I liked it. So I'm on the other side of that from you. But I hear what you're saying. I really do. Employing some of that radical empathy. It was a lot of fun, this episode. It was kind of silly, a little irreverent, but I do want to touch on two things. I saved it for the end here with T'Pring and Spock going back to their story. Ian, you mentioned earlier that Spock's struggle between his humanity and his Vulcan side is always a part of the Star Trek story. That duality between two beings, right? Except they are one. So how do you combine the emotional impact of the state of mind, of the state of being, with the very reasonable, very logical Vulcan way? And that plays into it quite a bit. And then you have T'Pring, who is full Vulcan, very logical, and sees things from the point of that logic pretty much 100%. Did you catch what T'Pring's job actually is? Because I did not.
Yeah, she's basically a rehabilitation counselor, or whatever the sort of Vulcan equivalent of that is. She works with, it doesn't sound like exclusively criminals, although it might be exclusively criminals, basically people who have, I guess, committed transgressions or explicitly crimes against logic. And have sort of rejected rejected Vulcan society, rejected Vulcan society at large and its values, and she seeks to rehabilitate them.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yeah. So when Spock slash T'Pring, Spock being in T'Pring's body, meets up with that guy in the courtyard, and knocks him out, of course, which is a lot of fun. I was trying to figure out, like, hold on a second, like, is T'Pring like some kind of a like law enforcement of some sort? It didn't quite. That's one thing that I didn't quite vibe with in this episode. It didn't quite make sense. I was expecting like, oh, maybe it's a Romulan and we're going to meet a Rom, but that wouldn't make sense. So what exactly is this? And then when we met that particular Vulcan, I thought, is this going to be like, I didn't know what to expect, and I don't really care for how it all played out. So in that respect, that is a point of the episode that kind of took a dip for me. But
yeah, I didn't think that. I mean, again, the idea of Spock putting himself into T'Pring's position, understanding a little bit more about the work that she does, I love that idea. I'm with you in that the specific situation, it was a little muddled to me exactly what the goal there was. Like, I didn't really understand what T'Pring in an ideal situation, say she had actually shown up to that interaction. I'm unclear how that interaction was meant to go ultimately. Yeah. Like, if I had a clearer idea of how that conversation should have gone or where it should be going, what the end result should be. But I didn't have a clear enough goal in mind or I didn't have a clear enough idea of what the goal that Spock slash T'Pring had in mind. Like, I didn't know what they were working towards, so I didn't really have a clear enough idea of what the stakes of that scene was. Or were. Well,
the stakes of that scene was really so that, Spock in T'Pring's body could defend Nurse Travel's
Of course.
honor.
No, those stakes were clear. I mean the stakes for T'Pring's character.
Yeah. It was a little muddy. But on the other side, T'Pring in Spock's body handling negotiation, that was a really cool scene.
Yeah. I liked that scene. It gave us good insight into gave us the necessary, us and Pike, the necessary insight into what was really going on with these negotiators. But also it gave T'Pring valuable insight into what Spock does. And a lot of that ended up being communicated through Pike when he steps in to defend Spock from the negotiators who have basically been acting fairly rude at this point.
Yeah. T'Pring getting the opportunity to see, what is Starfleet actually all about? How is Spock having an impact where he is? What is the work that he is doing? What value is he bringing? I think in this era of Star Trek, and I think Enterprise really touched on it well, where a lot of Vulcans were, very much against the idea of a federation, against the idea of mingling their cultures and, diluting the culture, if you will, right? And shout out to Ethan Peck for playing both Spock and playing T'Pring and playing the attitudes of both, because I thought it was really interesting to see T'Pring slash Spock bite his tongue a little bit and, remember that, oh, I'm in Spock's body. I need to protect Spock's job and do his job. I can do this. I thought that was really well played by Ethan Peck. And it's not something you get to see very often in body swap type comedies.
Yeah, no, I thought that the perspective that each of them gains is valuable. I thought that it did a good job of, a lot of times in a lot of classic Trek, but especially I'm thinking of like TNG, the classic model of like, you've got your A plot, your B plot, maybe you've got a C plot. And, those side stories, those B and C plots, might reinforce the themes that are going on in the A plot in some way. And I thought that this episode really exemplified that. It had all these characters having the opportunity to expose themselves to perspective of others. You had Lon and Una, who get to see what it's like to be a lower decker for a little bit, at least when you're filling out Enterprise bingo. You got Spock and T'Pring literally body swapping to get different perspectives. And of course you have, the sort of radical empathy exercise that these Rogovians seem to, I don't know whether it's specifically a negotiation tactic or whether this is something that they more broadly do as a culture. That could be an interesting thing to explore in the future. But yeah, all of these different interactions keep reinforcing this central theme of the show, the episode at least.
Yeah. It's good. It plays well, and I think it's a really good way to showcase, additionally, like you mentioned, that radical empathy.
Big time. Yeah. Huge part of the show. And, it's one of those things that is, again, it's funny, we're coming after the episode where they faced the Gorn, but that was essentially, the final solution to that episode, to the classic episode Arena, where Kirk is basically like, nope, I understand my adversary. I'm engaging in, radical empathy, radical mercy. I'm not going to kill him just because you've told me to. I understand their perspective now. And so that is as classic a Star Trek theme as it gets. And I thought it was explored very thoroughly this week.
Yeah. Is there anything that we missed in this episode? I know it was a lot of fun. I'm smiling thinking about it. I can't think that we missed
tell
anything.
me, as I told you, I lost my thorough notes.
I can't believe you lost your thorough notes. I will say my favorite, not that we missed it because I'm going to talk about it, but my favorite part of the episode is when Spock and T'Pring realize what has happened and Pike comes calling at their door. The whole situation unfolds, right? And then they both look, the two Vulcans look at each other and they say, okay, we need to tell him. It's only logical that at this point we tell him. And so they tell him, and Pike's reaction is, get out of town. And Spock immediately, we are not in a town. Ian, I was dying. It was one of the funniest things I have seen on Star Trek.
Oh, I love the whole, trying to juggle things with Pike in that sequence. That particular line did feel pretty classic Spock, but the whole sitcom feel of that setup really worked for me. I like hijinks. I liked the sitcom-y kind of hijinks that some of these characters were getting into this episode. I think if they do it well, Star Trek can have an occasional sitcom episode, and I think that's great. I think that's fine. I think the universe is big enough and broad enough to contain that. And it's the other nice side effect of not having a season long cataclysm that they're trying to avert is when you do have an episode like this where the characters are just kind of dicking around and getting to know each other, and we're getting to know them through their hijinks. You don't have that pressure of feeling like, okay, I guess this is fun. Should we really be taking the time to do this though? Don't we have a ticking clock to worry about? There's no ticking clock, man. It's just
there's no ticking clock.
Yeah, you just have the characters free to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, the show is really showcasing some of the best Trek storytelling that we've seen in a long time, and I don't mind that they're repurposing original series plot lines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if the original series is the template, that's the original copy, then what they're doing here is all gold by me. And this was great. I am kind of bummed that we are on leave and we have these guest hosts, because I'd love to talk about every episode every single week with you. But also, I do appreciate that we don't have to be on every week.
Yeah. I hear that, but at the same time, it's great to be looking forward to watching Star Trek like week after week. It's too bad we can't always talk about it together on mic.
That's true. But in the meantime, we also have folks like Craig McKenzie. We've got Ashley Thomas. We got Tony Black. We got Kurt North. There's a lot of great voices helming We Are Starfleet. Just because Strange New Worlds, everybody wants to talk so why not? So we do have a lot of guest hosts, but our Twitter is still at Starfleet Pod. It is still run by us. We still check in and look at the things that y'all are saying, the good and the bad. That's fine. You can say nasty things to us. That's okay. Or you can say great things. I would prefer it if you say great things. Even better if you drop a 5-star review on the podcast. That helps all those algorithms to showcase our podcast in other places. And if you'd like to hear more episodes, then stay tuned, stay subscribed. And if you are a fan of Star Trek Discovery, Ian and I have unpacked nearly just about every single episode of seasons 3 and 4. And one day, I swear to you, Ian, we are going to do season 1 and season 2. Promise you. Maybe that will come. But in the meantime, folks, thanks for tuning in. Ian Buckley, I appreciate you. Also, shout out. We saw the motion picture in theaters just last week.
We did. We saw the director's cut restoration of the motion picture. It looked great on the big screen. Pretty excited for that 4K disc to come out later this year. I think it's coming out in September.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we're not here to podcast about the motion picture, but I do have to say, what an experience seeing it on the big screen. I had, it was pretty mind-blowing to me.
Absolutely. Such a trippy movie. A lot of fun. Just really enjoyed it. I will say the
most awkward part is, with the redesigned pajama uniforms, you can really see that they really are pajamas.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of and some scenes where there's very little left to the imagination in the groin area. It's some very interesting costuming decisions in the late 70s there.
In your face.
Very, especially on the big screen.
With that, folks, make sure you check out this show at We Made This is it WeMadeThisNetwork.com? Oh, wow. Oh, Tony's going to kill me.
No, because you're going to edit that out.
Or will I? WeMadeThisNetwork.com is our website. You can follow us at We Made This on Twitter. You can follow the show at Starfleet Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And folks, thank you so much for joining us on this episode covering Spock Amok of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Ian, thank you. I'll see you on the next one.
Looking forward to it.
Elsewhere on We Made This.
Make it so. A Star Trek Picard podcast.
Why? Why do you even need to bring that up? You don't. We've done a story, and you're just using that for the. Oh, God. No, it's like, no. I don't get it. I understand it. I understand Soongs. Soongs are always going to be in some way related to the Kang story because of genetics and the stuff like that they've done. I get it, but to do that, and if it comes in season 3, if it's a main thing in season 3, then I'll hold judgment. If it doesn't get mentioned in season 3, then what was the point?
Pick a disc.
Guardian reading lefty, which a
bleeding heart is one of the phrases we use a lot here in the US. Like, he cares about the homeless. I'm sort of shifting into my Limbo impersonation. Oh, he wants to house the homeless. what is he, a communist? Like, that's not... maybe a little. But he's concerned with this. He's concerned with climate change. He's concerned with poverty. He's concerned with just general treatment of your fellow human beings. Like, I'm sure he resents having been subjected to trauma in his own life, and that gives him a great deal of sympathy, which I think is a good quality.
Third one, are the following names of hops US space shuttles or both?
Brilliant.
First one, Atlantis.
No, it's a US space shuttle, but is it a hop? I'm going to say it's just a US space shuttle.
Correct.
Good.
I didn't.
Have I got to get best of three again?
Yeah, I didn't know that was a space shuttle. Well, that's my poor knowledge. That is. Second one, Galaxy.
I know that's a hop because I've seen it in a pub recently. I don't know if it's a space shuttle, so I'm going to say both.
Just a hop, that one.
Oh, damn it.
Next one, Endeavour.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.